as voice for what's happening in law enforcement and other things. We have a very special guest with us today. Just recently retired from law enforcement after, I think, 3 decades. He is an incredible individual. We have a mutual friend that shall remain nameless. But the fact of the matter is he's a very smart, very intelligent, very knowledgeable individual when it comes to law enforcement. He just started his own consulting company. He's going to speak about that. And we have recently retired City of Miami Police Chief Jorge Colina is on the show with us. Welcome, Chief.
Oh, well, he just dropped off by accident. But
he's back.
There he is.
Yeah, there he is. We lost the connection. That's what happens in a live show. So again, welcome, Chief Colina, and we're very, very proud of what you've done for our community, and we thank you for your service, sir, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
We have a few questions we want to ask, but first and foremost, how are you enjoying all this free time?
Well, I haven't had a lot of free time. I've actually been really busy with this second, chapter 2, but it has been very different. And so far, honestly, well, first of all, I didn't have to shave, which was nice, as you can see. And it's great to wake up in the morning and go right to my coffee and not watch the news to see where there's traffic, to how do I navigate to get into downtown. So those things are nice.
Excellent.
So Chief, I could jump in. Robert Asencio, my partner, failed to introduce me, but that's okay.
Everybody knows who you are, Robert.
But listen, unlike you, who really, for most people who are paying attention, we don't need an introduction for you. You're a person who has been, as a matter of fact, every time I'm with my significant other or I'm with family and you come on TV, they always comment about how calm you are when you speak. So you're the voice of calmness, if you will. And we've gone through some real trying times in Miami-Dade County. But I think that also sets us apart. So this show, thank you for being on the show. It's our second week, a brand new show that all we want to do is feature, humanize law enforcement, educate the public. And we want to invite you to be, regular, not just on a show, but our podcast to help educate people. I think it's going to go so far to putting things in perspective. I wanted to ask you, how did you feel, as the head of a second largest agency in Dade County again, with the protests that were going on in the city of Miami, this call for enhancing the criminal penalties for those people that go out there and protest. And also this call to defund the police, right?
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Can we put things in perspective? Because for me, as a practitioner, person spent nearly 3 decades in law enforcement as well, military, former legislator. If you ask me, I don't think police have enough funding. So can you share your thoughts as the former head of the second largest agency in the county?
Yeah, I think that it's about communicating properly. And so a lot of people don't understand, there are things that have happened across the country that have been ugly, right? That have been captured on video, that no one thinks is okay. And so the initial thought is we should be punitive against the police. And how do we do that? Well, we should cut their funding. And that's where this whole defunding idea comes from. What I think that people don't understand is that probably 90% of your budget is personnel. And so first you got to understand, does that mean that you want less officers? Because if that's what you want, then defunding is okay. I don't want police, then that's okay. If you're thinking we want the officers to be better trained, we want the officers to have smarter tools to work more efficiently, then no, you don't want to defund. And you need more funding, actually, because that's what pays for de-escalation training. That's what pays for technology and equipment to go out and do the job effectively. So defunding is not the way to go. And the thought that just defund the police because something happened somewhere, I find a little irresponsible. Many people have come out and called out some of the ugliness that we have seen. And I think it's important to do that. But to generalize the police the way that we have been generalized is unfair. And nobody likes that, by the way. And if we did that in law enforcement, we'd be in trouble.
Absolutely.
When you speak about police in such general terms, it's offensive because everybody wants to be judged on their own merits. Judge me for me. What have I done? How am I performing? Have I been held accountable if I've made a mistake or committed a crime or whatever the case is? And then lastly, to that point, before you jump on a police department, please wait and see how they're going to handle the incident. Don't judge them based on what an officer did. Judge them based on how they handle that. You know, is that acceptable to them? Or do they speak out against it? Are they being transparent? Then make your judgments.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And you know, a lot of it tends to be politics, as we will know. And, you know, law enforcement, we don't profile. That's not what we do. So we don't appreciate when we're profiled in the law enforcement community. And that's exactly what you just mentioned. Tell us a little bit about what you have in store with your new season in life. I know that you're starting a consulting company. If you want to talk to us about that.
So I've started a company, the Jorge Colina Group, and we're going to be doing a few different things, but one of them is assessments of departments. It could be a specific unit, internal affairs, training, policy, and taking all of our experience and our subject matter experts in and take a look at a department and see how they're doing. It's always wise for departments to be proactive about what they're doing and how they're doing, because it kind of helps mitigate potential problems in the future. I'll certainly work as a subject matter expert on certain different topics, and already some of that work has come in. So it's exciting just to kind of go out and use what I've learned over a long period of time and apply it somewhere else where someone can benefit. You know, that's exciting.
Well, Chief, let me ask you, you know, offline, we were talking, and now we ended up having the same TA in the police academy. Both you and I had the same street in law enforcement.
Oh, I think I've lost.
I'm not going to preach here now, but I can tell you there are a lot of things that have affected me, things that have affected you, good, bad, or different. Can you share a story, what we normally call war stories? Can you share a story that could be moving to the community, so something that they may not know that you experienced?
Well, first of all, the amount of things that you experience. Listen, we're all made up of our experiences, and it kind of dictates how we behave in life and how we react to things. And those are just the facts. Sometimes you're an officer and you work in an area where there is a lot of violence. You know, that does in fact make you hesitant in how you engage people. And again, we shouldn't be critical of that, but I remember something that happened to me personally that I'll never forget. I worked in Overtown on the midnight shift when I was a new officer. And like many new officers, I was aggressive, you know, not in my actions towards people, but wanting to do police work, go to calls, jump calls, be very active.
Motivated, yeah.
Motivated, exactly. And I remember I got involved in a bad car accident. And I remember hearing the folks that lived right there in Overtown saying, "That's Colina. Don't let anybody take any of his stuff," you know, because things had fallen out of the car. And I remember that. I remember thinking, wow, I police here and I'm very motivated and I go out and work very hard. And they recognize that. And they were all standing around waiting for other units and fire rescue to come and not let anyone come and take any of my personal stuff, my flashlight or whatever. And I have never forgotten that, because what it taught me right there is that if you do right by people and you're respectful, they're going to do right by you the vast majority of the time. And I've never forgotten that lesson.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Chief, I don't know if you remember, you probably don't remember this, but this is going back to the 90s. At 62nd Street and Northwest 2nd Avenue, there was a major fight, right? And when I mean a major fight, there were a lot of people involved in this fight. It was this fight that broke out, and it led into the intersection. And I responded. And I remember getting out of the car and hearing the distinctive sound of a bullet passing my head. You know, the whizzing sound that we as police unfortunately know. And then I heard the pop. But the one thing that was really, really impressive to me was, as you just said, that you came up and you were amongst the officers who responded, my 15s, right? The backup that I call for 315, emergency backup. And And you and others responded. And within a short period of time, you guys, the city of Miami officers, had already a lead, already had the subject identified, and the subject had fled. And I was like, darn it, how did you guys do that? And the point was the relationship that you built, that your officers built with the community, was what got the community to talk and turn in the individual. And within a short period of time, that individual was caught, he was arrested. And that for me always stuck. So this idea of, again, going back to this misinformation of defunding, I think it meant send the money elsewhere. We can't do it without appropriate funding. We can't have appropriate police officers, well-staffed, well-funded, well-equipped, well-trained, if we don't have the proper funding. But what do you see as the biggest obstacle for law enforcement right now?
I think it's dealing with that resentment that we know exists. A lot of officers don't know how to cope with that. And a lot of them will take it personal. They won't realize it isn't about you, the person. It isn't about Robert or Raul or George. It's just a uniform right now that they're resenting. That has a pretty serious toll on someone's psyche. And it's because of that, the amount of suicides in our profession has skyrocketed. And honestly, those are tragedies that are preventable. And so I think one of the biggest challenges right now is, first of all, to reconcile, right? To go back to the community and say, hey, we've never left and we've always been here for you. And the vast majority of us love this job and want to continue to serve us, but we need you. We need your support. We legitimately need to recognize that we're all sharing the same ground. It's common ground for the both of us. And that needs to be expressed. Because what we do in this profession, and you guys know it because you lived it as well, is, man, someone kind of comes at us and we take a step back and we dig in and we come together. And it's almost like, okay, well, if you want to fight, let's fight. And I don't know if that's the answer right now. I think the answer is to say, hold on a second. Hold on. We're not on opposite sides here. We're on the same side. There's some players on both sides that may think differently, but the vast majority of us, we're here for you, and we want to know that you're here for us, both ways.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right, Chief. I'll tell you this again, and I'm not here to preach, but from a man of faith, if you don't believe in something greater than yourself, then you need Hopsy to give you. You need to get right at the end of the day. You got to get right. That's my opinion. One of your chaplains, Ras Vasquez. I know him well. There's the major agencies have chaplaincy programs out there, and what you said, it touches my heart because I know officers that thought of the most horrible thing a person can think of and to take their own life, and the stress does impact our lives, and you're right. I was young, motivated. You want to fight, I'm ready. But when you start maturing in life, you start realizing there are other ways to address situations. So I give you props for what you've done in the city. And I think in light of what's happened throughout the nation, South Florida, Miami is a major area. We didn't have those issues, and it's quite honestly because of the leadership, like individuals like you. So I appreciate
very much so. And Chief, I didn't say thank you. So I wanted to publicly say thank you after all these years. It's been almost 2 decades since you 15 with me, but I also
it became a regular thing for me with this guy. So
yeah, I know. I was always coming to your help. But anyway, I also wanted to ask you about a controversial topic that really was an issue of contention. Certainly before the 2020 elections, there was a lot of talk about the CRV, the Citizens Review Board. I think there's various different names for it. Can you give us some thoughts on, how to make that process better, since we're not going to go away from it, since it is here, and a little better understanding for those viewers that maybe aren't aware of what that's all about?
So in a lot of places, you have these review boards. In Miami, we call it the investigative panel, citizens investigative panel. Sometimes they're introduced through legislation. Sometimes police departments go out and just put one together on their own. They're typically made up of people from that community. And there has been a bit of contention because typically in law enforcement, we're thinking, well, they only exist to Monday morning quarterback us. And they give opinions with the clarity of hindsight. But, I think we need to accept the idea that, hey, well, this is just the time that we're living in. And if we look at it a little differently and recognize if someone wants to put an extra set of eyes on us, that's okay. If you see something that, we're not doing right, or if you recognize the policy that you think should be tweaked or changed, then let us know. And I think that if we look at it that way and we work with them and try to educate them too, because there's things they don't understand, invite them to the station, have them meet people, invite them to training, invite them to go to ride-alongs, because like Hopsy was saying, when you do that, you have a different appreciation for what we do. But ultimately, I think that you got to work together. And if you got extra eyes on you, then do better, be better.
And the law enforcement, by law, they have to have an internal investigative process.
Correct.
And I think that that's something that the community needs to be aware of. I was a huge proponent that if we're going to have a CRB, a Citizens Review Panel or Review Board, however it's called, that extra set of eyes, as you called it, that they too be trained. And
absolutely.
I really like what you said, Chief. And I hope we can share that voice and put it out there more to people, because I know that training goes a very, very long way.
Everything is a training issue, as you all know.
Yeah.
It's always a training issue. And listen, it's easy to have an opinion about something when you really haven't lived it. And although they wouldn't be patrolling all the time, I think if you build a mechanism that they come to our training, they go in the simulator, and then more importantly, they go out and they ride and they see what an officer does every day, what the officers do, really does give them a different perspective.
Yeah. So we have about 5 minutes to close it out. And I wanted to tell you that, again, the invite stands to do a longer conversation on podcasts. We picked up Miami Cop Talk is now picked up by Spotify and a host of other podcast platforms. We're on social media, Miami Cop Talk, at Miami Cop Talk, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. But more importantly, we want you to give us input for us to better grow this conversation, to improve upon what we're doing, to bring added professionals, not just law enforcement, it's also the community. Raul, any thoughts that you can share?
Well, I have one thought.
Chief?
One thought.
Go ahead.
As a married man, I know how important this is.
I
know how important this is. Chief, is there anybody you want to give a shout out? As a married man, I know that, my wife's by my side, and especially after decades in law and coming home and sharing. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to, Chief?
Well, I'm grateful that you asked me, because I was really hoping to be able to do it in a public setting, but my wife has been so incredible throughout this entire journey. She's been with me since before I became a police officer. She's been by my side, supporting me throughout every decision I've ever made. She's given me tremendous ideas that I get to go to work, implement, and then take credit for. And I know, by the way, that I wouldn't have achieved half of the success that I've had if it wasn't for her support at home. And when my head's gotten too big, she knows immediately what to do to bring me back to reality. Take out the garbage. You got this to do. Don't forget that. You're just a person here. You have no rank. And then when I'm feeling down, she reminds me and tells me that there's no one else like you. And so she's always known that balance, and I'm so grateful to her. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Yes, and today's International Women's Day, so I think that's important for people to hear how important the women are in our lives. So Thank you for that.
Thank you, guys.
All right, and we're ending the show. We want to thank Jorge Colina for being with us, and appreciate you being with us, sir. God bless you. God bless your family, guys. And
thank you.
May beautiful things be in store for you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All righty.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody. We're getting ready to close out our show. Are we done? Are we done, Robert?
I think we are.
Tommy?
We're still on the air?
Yeah.
On that note, let's go ahead and plug Tommy's show, because it is
Mainline Marlins. He's really was making the Marlins as successful as they are today. Mainline Marlins every day from 8:45 to 9 in the morning, 15-minute podcast. He's got going on a great show also. And on Wednesdays from 3 in the afternoon to 3:30, Mainline Marlins with Tommy. And anything else?
Yeah, Miami Tactical. Right?
Miami Tactical. That's MiamiTactical.com is helping sponsor the show, MiamiTactical.com. And I also want to give a shout out to another sponsor that we just had. I got a little notice here. Share Your Heart. And we'll talk about that in the future. Share Your Heart. .us. They do great work for this community. The director of that program is Raul Gonzalez, and he does amazing work for this community. That's going to be on one of our future shows.
It's not only a food distribution; it's a resource.
No,
center,
it
right?
is
It's
amazing. It is amazing.
service.
They help victims. They help human trafficking victims. It's an amazing organization. They partner with the DCF, the Department of Children and Families. But we're going to have Rolly on the show in the future, and that's amazing.
Until then, why don't you tell them where they can get a hold of him? What is website?
His website is shareyourheart.us. Shareyourheart.us. Rolly Gonzalez is an amazing individual, and he really does a lot for this community. So we want to thank him. We want to thank all the individuals that are helping us bring Miami Cop Talk to you, and visit us on our website. We have links and resources, MiamiCopTalk.com.
Absolutely. So on that note, I will say thank you to another sponsor. My company is called New Era Alliances. Here to provide some assistance, NewEraAlliances.com. Visit the page, drop me a line, let us know what you like, if that company can provide you any services. On that note, thank you to the Miami community newspapers. Your assistance in getting this program off the ground has been greatly appreciated. Grant, Michael Miller, Tommy Stiff, the producer. We can't thank you guys enough. So on that note,